How stunned are you that this is the way this team has come out, specifically after it felt like they were gaining a bit of momentum prior to the Olympic break?
Yeah, I really did think, I'm the eternal optimist here, and even my optimism can only go so far, quite frankly. And the way they've played their last four games since the break was over is is disappointing to say the least. I think. I mean, if you go game by game in Tampa, they could have lost 6-0. I mean, just logistically. I mean, with two goals called back and Gensel missing the open net in Florida. The game was over in the first 10 minutes. It was 3-0. In Ottawa, they went their performance in the first half of that game was so bad. I was wondering why they even came on the ice. And even last night's game, even though it was an overtime game, there was just nothing in my mind, nothing there. Like, I mean, it's not a really good Philadelphia team, and they were missing their best player, and they lost a defenseman during the game. But me and my wife were talking, and it was just going, like, where's the enthusiasm? Where's the get up and go? Like, I mean, it was just not there. So I agree with you guys in that there's no chance that I think that they can make the playoffs now. And at one point last night, and not talking about Austin, but I mean, I'm going, who's going to score for these guys? Like, I mean, you're looking at who's going on the ice, and I mean, if Matthews is not going to play with any excitement and jam, and the Nylander scored a goal, but who else is going to score? I find it a far place from the team that used to be. You look down the lineup, and they could get goals from a lot of different sources, but I don't see it happening right now.
And who do you blame for that, Gabby? Like not being prepared to play their give a shit meter, their intensity, their compete level, whatever you want to, however you want to describe what we watch out there when the season's on the line and everyone's going, oh man, do we ever need one tonight? This is a must win kind of thing. And they just come out with a blank look on their face, get shelled. Like you said, it could have been 6-7-0. That's the performance you put together. Who do you blame for that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of blame to go around. I mean, it doesn't look like in the dressing room as a player that they have an emotional leader. Like, I mean, they got a captain, but I don't think he's an emotional leader that will, like, I mean, and there's not too many Sidney Crosbys out there, but you heard the stories in the Olympics that, I mean, after the second period, he'd come out and he'd say something of one or two of the games, and you would go out there like ready to go through the wall for them. So I don't think they have an emotional leader. I don't know the behind the scenes. Like, I mean, I gotta believe that Craig can get pretty emotional and everything because of the way he played and his personality. But it seems, this is what it seems like to me, and I don't ever aspire to have coaches lose their job because I know how hard they work and everything. But it's like a parent telling a kid that to clean your room or you're going to get punished. And so the kid keeps leaving the room messy and leaving the room messy, and then the parent doesn't do anything. So then the kid goes, you can tell me whatever you want. I'm not going to listen. I'm just going to go out and do what I want. That's what I think it looks like the Leafs are playing like right now. And they're looking like, you can't, whatever you say, it doesn't going to be affect me because you're not going to follow through with it, or it's not going to happen. So, I mean, he's got to take some blame. I look at Brad Treliving. I mean, what moves have we made this year when we acknowledge that the team's not getting better? They got Troy Stetcher off of waivers, and I don't know if they've got anybody else like in a deal. Whereas I think it's important that you identify what you have early, and I know it's not easy to make trades in that, but you identify with what you have early, and if your aspirations are to go to and win the cup, then you try to get those things as early as you can. And I don't think the Leafs have tried that early enough. So, I mean, to put it in a nutshell, I think there's blame for everybody.
Oh, 1000%. And I think just circling back on Berube, you've been around a long time. It's my belief that I think he's lost the room. I know it's cliche to say that in the hockey world, but do you feel that way as well?
Well, I think that's basically what I was saying is that the players aren't. Last year they played a great defensive game, and he had their attention. I mean, this year, especially recently, I mean, they're not that their goaltending hasn't been that great, but they're allowing 4 and 5 goals almost every game, and he's a defensive minded coach, so it's a real. So to say that he's lost the room. I just don't know if they're paying attention to the way he wants to play right now. And they're just going, it seems like they're going through the motions. I thought last night, after everything, they would have come out and like Philly hadn't won 3 games in a row since November or early November. So, I mean, and they're missing 2 players. Like, I mean, so I thought they would come out and just really hammer them as I've seen them do in the past when things have gone bad. But there was nothing there. The second period, I'm going, what's going on? And then they had 2 shots on net through the first 7 minutes of the third, or the first 13 minutes of the third period, on a desperation type thing. So I mean, I was a little upset. Like just watching the game, that I would have thought there would have been way more desperation. So I agree with you. I don't think they're really listening that much right now.
Gabby, do you believe that this core group of players is capable of winning in this league with what you've seen from them?
Well, the core would be what Nylander, Matthews, Nyes. Even though he's having a bad year, I mean, I thought he'd be close to 40 goals this year. I really did. And
Yeah.
like John Tavares is a really good player, but he is, I mean, what is he scored? 13 goals in his last 44 games or something like that, and he's getting older. Like, I mean, he can play, but guys officially, it's unfortunate we get old, and that's what happens. So I mean, their core up front is those 3 guys. Everybody else, I don't know. Their core on defense is built around 30 plus year old defensemen, and it arguably you'd say Oliver Ekman Larsson is their best defenseman, and I didn't think that would happen. So I don't know what to build the team around right now, and that's probably a question that they're scratching their head about.
What the hell are they doing with Easton Cowan? What's your best breakdown of what's happening behind the scenes with Cowan? Like in my view, like if you're going to play him, 823 last night, just put him in the AHL at this point.
Listen, I've coached for 30 years, and my philosophy was always that if you can't play a young kid for 12 minutes a game, he's got to go somewhere else because he's not developing there. And that means if he plays 8:23 last night, that means every shift he takes, he's going out there more worried about, oh, I can't make a mistake or I'm going to not get on the ice anymore, rather than, hey, listen, I was one of the best players in the OHL. I've won the Memorial Cup. I was a top-notch player. He's not playing with that confidence, and absolutely would have, when he sat out those games before the break and the first 2 games after the break, I would have had him playing in the American Hockey League, playing 20 to 25 minutes a night, because as Jay knows, that's a good league, and you develop there. You don't develop sitting in the stands or sitting on the bench in the NHL. I no matter what they say, I have to have a disagreement with that. And maybe it's because I love the AHL, but I mean, boy, an awful lot of players got better playing a lot of minutes, and especially at this time of the year in the AHL, the play picks up even more. And I mean, as teams go and vie for the Calder Cup, so absolutely he should have been in the minors, or or play him, one of the two. Like what they're doing to the poor guy right now is not right.
Yeah. Now, as we start nearing the trade deadline here this week, Gabby, what's your prediction for what's going to be made with this organization?
Um, I don't know. Like I'm just a fan, like you guys, or you guys are a lot closer than me. But I mean, I would think, okay, in the meetings, this is that we're not going to win the cup this year. So we have assets, or we've got players. How can we create assets to get better without completely destroying our team right now? I mean, we'd wait for the summer to do that. So I mean, I would definitely not, for example, go out and get a Panarin type guy. Like, I mean, because it's not going to do them any good. I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs. So to me, they've got some guys that they could move. I mean, I'm not big on getting third and fourth round draft choices either, by the way, because that's the 100th player from junior. And those guys, much to my chagrin, don't usually make it. They could hit a home run every now and again, but it doesn't happen too often. I would find a good young player that's playing well, that they know is going to be eventually a good NHLer. Like, who did they give to Boston? Like, like, I mean, and Minton, and like that kind of player, and get him in here and play him as much as you can, and let him be a player for next year.
So I talked a bit about Craig Berube, and we'll get to the deadline, but I want to sort of get your perception, obviously, because you have so much experience coaching in this league. Well, what do you think's going through Chiefs' mind? Like, even at the deadline, that must be a crap feeling, that knowing that you're probably cooked and this team's preparing for the future and you're probably not going to be a part of the future.
Well, you know what? You try not to think like that as a coach. And I know one thing. I mean, for me, I wouldn't be watching TV. I wouldn't be watching podcasts. I wouldn't be listening to anything that had to do with hockey right now, because, I mean, you get too many opinions. And uh, uh, but I mean, you have to do your job, and the only thing you could do is continue to try to get these players to play to play to the best of their ability. When they win, if they win or not, is really not the issue right now. You just got to get them to play to the best of their ability, and that's where I find it a problem. Is I don't think they are.
Now, it's probably tough to coach in this situation, regardless of who you are, what your job status is. But as rumors start to fly and the season's starting to crumble and things start to get negative outside, how do you go about coaching the remaining 20 games here?
Listen, I was in Vancouver, where I knew I was cooked from day one. So I mean, you've got to block it out and just say you're doing the best job you can. Like, I mean, and it's a difficult thing, but you don't all of a sudden say, what's the difference? I'm not going to have a meeting today. No, you practice to win. You practice to do this all the time. You've got to do your job. And Craig will do that. Craig's like, I mean, I've had conversations with him about the Leafs, and I thought he was spot on last year when we talked about the team and what they needed and everything. But you can't quit coaching. The minute you quit coaching, then you're really cooked. And I don't see him quitting coaching. I think he's trying. It's just you got to find different ways. Like, if it's not getting through, you got to try to find another way, and then hope that you're still around next year to see what mistakes you've made and that the management team has made, and hope they have enough faith in you to keep you around one more year, to give you another shot. You're always hoping that you get another shot. Jay, you as a player, like, I mean, when things weren't going well, you still went out there and did your best, hoping, hey, I hope I get another year out of these guys. I mean, that's what we all do, right?
You bet.
You're right. Can't fire an entire team, unfortunately, and I think there's got to be a scapegoat. And I view Berube as a guy who's going to fall on the sword, unfortunately. But I did want to circle back, as I mentioned, to the trade deadline. Is there any untouchable in your world, like, to get grander with the conversation? Are you, if you're the GM or you're the Maple Leafs, are you open to all kinds of conversations? More so in the summer. I mean, you're not going to go out and say, hey, 34's on the block or 88's on the block. But where are you at with those two specifically, and making a substantial change here?
Well, I was thinking last night that, I mean, if you did make a change, it would have to be for a couple of really good players on each of them. So if you got I wouldn't even be thinking draft choices unless it was like the first overall potential. But I mean, I'd you'd have to get 5 really serviceable players for those 2 guys, and I think they're really, I don't know what's going on with Austin. Maybe he just doesn't like Craig. I mean, that's happened before too. And when that happens, usually there for the sure the coach goes. But I mean, I would wait for the summer, see how it goes. Right now, I mean, Matthews has 2 years left after this. I mean, so I mean, something's got to be done with him. I think he should be able to get back to his 50-goal scoring pace. I don't know why he's not. Maybe Mitch Marner made that big of a difference, but I don't know. Nylander, I think Nylander, it doesn't matter where he plays or who he plays with. He's so much individualistic that he's going to be great or really good wherever he goes. But I would keep those 2 unless you could find an unbelievable move for them. I mean, that's what you got to build the team around, is your best players. You're not going to build it around Max Domi. Not trying to be negative towards Max, and just he's not the elite player that you would be building a team around. And the Leafs don't have a defenseman like Matthew Schaefer that they could build their team around. They don't. I mean, they got to find that guy in the draft and hope it works. But I don't know who you build your team around with this team. I mean, it's they're probably saying the same thing upstairs every day. What do we do?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's so unfortunate, and maybe I'd be the first to admit we took the last decade for granted, and even though they didn't really have much success in the playoffs, and here we are, and we're staring in the face of the final 20 games of the regular season, a long spring into a long summer to maybe get back to a scenario where you get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs. But can't thank you enough for your time today. Great insight. Appreciate it as always.
Yeah, no problem. It's always fun talking about the Leafs. I mean, you know what else they need? They need a guy that goes out there and like Jay and can stir things up when the crowd is dead and everybody's dead. They don't have anybody like that anymore. So they need something. I mean, as Leaf fans, we're all just going to go back and try to search for what it is. So, but thanks for having me on. You guys have a great day. But
do you not see an opportunity in the league, Bruce, for kids? Like, I look at players and everyone wants to take Willie Nylander's job, and it's like, well, they're not going to take that. Like, why don't you go out there, work your nuts off, hit everything that moves, throw everything at the net, fire up your bench, chirp their bench? Like, why aren't there more like agitators and power forwards and grinders anymore? Like, every team's begging for them, and it's there for the taking. Is this generation just not really into that, or what's the deal with no one wanting to take that role?
You know what? I agree with you. I don't know why. All I know is when I can say this: when I got called up and I knew I wasn't going to play much, I was going to run around like a chicken with his head cut off. I was going to be every time when I was sitting on the bench waiting for my time, I am cheering everybody to come on and off. I'm being a cheer. I'm doing whatever it takes to stay there. And it looks like everybody. The young kids that come up now say, yeah, I'm here, but I'm supposed to be here. This is where I am. I'm not doing what I have to do to stay here. And that's bothersome, quite frankly.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.